files, anything like that.
Yeah. And then the other thing we discussed with Mikey is, okay, so what if you start with, the quick and dirty, the quick and easy way to go and find the JSON manifests to load the DSC resources available. What if then you ask the adapter, is there anything else that you have? And Mikey was saying, well, this adapter needs to know and manage the cache. So it goes, and then if it already found something which is in the cache, it doesn't have to do the whole import again and try to find this, because it will trust whatever has been discovered before. So basically,
let me put it differently. So from a functional and operative perspective, any PowerShell class-based resource that participates in this model will show up as a quote-unquote first-class citizen, in the sense that if you do DSC resource list, it would just be there, right? Versus if you're a PowerShell class-based resource today, you have to do DSC resource list -- adapter, Microsoft DSC PowerShell to find it, right? So it's hidden behind the adapter by design, because it's just slower to go through all of those ones, right? So in that sense, it'd be faster for users to find this stuff, because they don't have to now know about adapters. It's implicit versus explicit. And then the other thing is, during operational runtime, it's going to also be faster, because we don't need to always call into the adapter to do discovery and finding out it exists. Like, we already know it exists because we're just looking for this JSON file. So it's just going to be better overall, I think. Now, with that said, in your configuration file, if you specify a PowerShell class-based resource that doesn't have one of these JSON files, then the engine will still fall through this current logic, which is it doesn't find it as a quote-unquote first-class citizen. It's going to now start querying adapter and say, do you support this? Do you support this? Do you support this, right? And then if it doesn't get found by any adapter, then it fails. But that adapter search is the part that is a little bit slow by how it works. It has to clone to PowerShell, and PowerShell has to open up these module manifests and stuff like that. So, Mikey, you're on mute.
Oh, I was just going to say, I didn't hear if you brought up that it was going to enable JSON schema validation before we do schema extraction.
No, that was not brought up. We're only talking about the discovery part right now.
Yeah, just that being able to do the discovery from these separate files would enable you to put the JSON schema for your resource into that file. Like right now, we can't do any validation, right? Because we don't have schema extraction. But if you put the schema for your resource into that file, we could light that up early. And then eventually we can do the schema extraction, so you don't have to do hand maintenance.
Yeah, and to be clear, what Mike is talking about is we would have tooling so that when you're doing the build step of your PowerShell class-based resource, we generate this JSON file with the JSON schema. Right, and then with the JSON schema in there, it also means that when we have Bicep and YAML editing experiences in VS Code, you get IntelliSense.
And importantly, pre-validation.
Yeah, we don't have to. We can pre-validate statically before we spawn the processes.
Yeah, right now with PSDSC resources, the first time we'll know that you passed an invalid value is either one, when the adapter assigns the value to a property. And this can actually hide some errors and problems, right? Because of the casting nature of property assignment. So if you have a Boolean property and you pass it anything that isn't 0 or false or null, chances are it's going to go to true, regardless of whether or not that's what you meant, right? If you fat fingered it and you accidentally put a string for that value when it's supposed to be a Boolean, PowerShell and that PSDSC resource will still accept it. You won't get an error. You might just get unexpected behavior for that resource given what you thought your config was going to do. If we can pre-validate the actual data from a JSON schema, we can cut out a large swath of those types of errors and issues.
Yeah, so that was a big part of the discussion we're having. So I didn't do an introduction. Thank you for joining the DSC community. It's good that we just went straight into DSC v3, and then we had the discussion. We started the discussion earlier, and then we thought, okay, that's a good place to keep having this discussion. Maybe first of all, I will open the floor. So we don't have anything specific prepared. Has anyone any topic they would like to cover? I would suggest that you drop in the chat, and then we will start and cover it. In the meantime, I had some ideas. I think we could show maybe, first of all, it looks like some are not familiar with the different methods that you can have in a DSC resource. And maybe Mikey can start summarizing them. What are the things that changes, let's say, from DSC v2 to DSC v3? Just a very quick summary between the methods on the resource.
Sure. So there's the usual get, set, and test. One major difference for test and set is that they give you back more useful information in DSC than in PSDSC. So test in PSDSC just tells you yes or no, right? This is in the desired state or it isn't, but it doesn't have a way of telling you how it is wrong. DSC does. And so what you get at the end of a DSC test run, for an instance, is these are the properties you told me I was supposed to have. These are the actual state of the properties. The whole thing is or is not in the desired state, right? So you can just operate on that quick Boolean instead of having to look at anything else. But we also give you a differing properties array, which is which properties were wrong, right? So that you can also look at that and see, only one property, foo, was incorrect, or foo bar and baz are all wrong, those kinds of things. DSC also offers a synthetic test. So resources in DSC don't need to implement test as long as their property schema can be compared with a strict equivalence check. So that's just doing, I look at desired state property foo and actual state property foo. Are those the same value? Yes or no? If yes, then good. If no, then they're not in the right state, right? And this holds true for most resources. Resources where this doesn't work are things like package resources where you can specify a version range, right? Yeah. The desired state of greater than or equal to, wait, back up, buddy. The desired state of this package is installed at least version 1, greater than or equal to 1.0 and 1.3.4. DSC can't tell that that's valid, right? Without building that logic in and understanding every version range syntax that you could possibly pass, it can't do that. So for those types of resources, you can't rely on synthetic testing. Set, similarly, in PSDSC just gave you back nothing, right? It would error if something went wrong. You would throw an error, but otherwise you get nothing back. In DSC, we tell you what the state was before it was invoked, after it was invoked, and which properties were changed, right? DSC also has an export method which says, if your resource supports it, I want every instance of this resource on the machine. So that makes sense for things like, using Chocolatey packages as an example. What are all the installed Chocolatey packages on this box? Show me those. Where it doesn't make sense is things like, give me everything in the registry, or give me every file on this machine, right? Export also supports filtering. So you can say, I want all of the packages that start with PY, and then use a wildcard. Or you could say, I want all of the packages from a specific repository, or those kinds of things, right? You can filter that list with the filtering instance. There's also now a delete. Yes.
Is it supported by the adapter?
I believe so. I have to double check.
Okay.
I believe the adapter supports it. And then there's also the delete method, which says, I want to remove this instance from the machine, which we didn't previously have at all in PSDSC. And so this is a convenience. Sometimes it's easier when you're implementing set to handle create and update as one operation, and delete as a separate operation. So you're not doing property by property checking and all that kind of thing, right? You can short circuit a lot of logic with a delete method. But it's also convenient just to be able to do a delete off to the side, right? Independently. And then there's also delete, and I think this landed, but set for sure supports what if operations. So in a what if operation, a set what if operation, you don't actually change system state, but you have a chance to emit messages to the user about how you will change system state, in addition to providing the output that matches the normal set output. And so that enables you to provide for resources where things get a little bit more complicated. Like, will I install a resource is fine, or will I create a file is fine or whatever. But being able to say I'm going to upgrade from this version of the resource to this, or this version of a package to this version of a package, that is useful information. Or being able to write back messages that a human reading it before actually running the deployment, those kinds of things are useful. And I think support for that for delete operations also landed, but I'm not sure. And you can invoke all of these independently, like with the equivalent of invoke DSC resource, right? The DSC resource commands. Except for delete, they're all valid options for configuration application as well. You can get, set, test, and exploit on a configuration document.
Okay. I had a question and I forgot. Damn it.
You want me to answer the question in the chat?
Yes, please.
All right. So the question is about Azure. So I don't have anything to announce at this time. But what I will say is that Azure Machine Config, also known as Azure Gets Config, is a peer team of mine, and I don't think it's been a secret because I do talk about it at conferences. We are working with them, but nothing to announce at this time on how it will show up there. When you say VMs, do you mean Azure VMs or do you mean like Hyper-V or what specifically?
Azure. So in AWS, I pasted the link. There is a video demo as well. Basically, for the declarative deployment, the configuration files that are in, you could write the configuration in PowerShell.
Sure.
And so to deploy a VM, etc. And so similarly, I was currently, if I do PowerShell for Azure deployment, it can only be imperative, not declarative. To do declarative, I have to do Bicep and Terraform and all that. And so that's what I was trying to understand if the team is thinking about doing declarative PowerShell.
So it's okay. So I'll just state what my goal is without any timeline, okay? Because everything's a work in progress. So the goal here, and one of the reasons we align with ARM and therefore Bicep, obviously Bicep itself is also work in progress, Bicep integration with DSC. But the goal is you can author a Bicep template or ARM template, it doesn't really matter for me, to just deploy your infrastructure in Azure, and then as it's being deployed, and also configure each node, right, via DSC. So that is the end goal, if you will. I would say we're still far from having anything I could even show, right? But a lot of the work that we're doing, and in fact, if you look at some of the issues I open up, some of those are directly aligned with getting us closer to having that goal available, right? Now, obviously, a lot of this also requires work on other teams outside of my team. But that is one of the goals, is you can have a fully declarative model for deploying your infrastructure and configuring the nodes.
That's good.
That was the idea with the. Sorry, that was the idea with machine configuration anyway, right? So you could have this integration directly end to end, and that would be Bicep. But then in Bicep, you could have end to end configuration, which obviously didn't reach yet. But at least the vision and the direction is still the same. And I would say you're getting closer and closer to that view.
That is a good way of looking at it. Yes.
Can I ask something about the export part?
Please do.
The export part is really interesting because, Mikey, we are using Puppet, so for me it's the equivalent of resources. In PSC, DSC v2, we don't have this. Or do we have already something to do this export?
Yep. So you can, for class-based PSDSC resources, you can implement the export static method and get that. And you said you're using Puppet. So that is Puppet isn't going to know how to call it, right? Unless somebody does updates to the Puppet DSC wrapper module. But this works very similarly. I don't know how much you know about Puppet resource internals. Export is essentially instances. on internal Puppet resources, where it retrieves every instance and then operates on it. The main difference between DSC and Puppet in this regard is Puppet uses that as a pre-cache for operating on individual instances. We're using it as a separate method. So we don't have that same sort of behavior. But that's primarily because everything in Puppet runs inside of the same Ruby instance, and we don't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm. It's because also on Puppet, sometimes we use the purge method, to purge the stuff we don't want to, that are not declared. So.
Yeah. Are you using the wrapped PS-DSC Puppet resources, or are you using DSC Lite?
No, we are using the wrap DSC, all the one that is wrapped by your what you have written. So it's working pretty well, except one stuff. It's usually we are blocked with the DSC get because Puppet is, really wants the DSC get to match the MOF, and we have discovered a lot of small issue here and there, case sensitive stuff, or for cluster, for example, the DSC get was just returning if the cluster doesn't exist because there is no ensure present absent. It's just returning an error. And Puppet, it's an error. I don't go straight. So that's mainly what we have. So for the rest, we are pretty happy, to be honest.
I don't know if you've seen.
Go ahead, share your screen if you want, Mikey.
Yeah.
So it's all your fault anyway, right?
Yeah, it is. Well, not anymore. Whatever they've done since I left is their fault.
Okay.
I was
not sure there was so much change. But
I'll just share this link for you. So this only really applies to you because you're using Puppet. If you use these modules, so these are they're the PowerShell DSC resource modules vendored and wrapped into individual Puppet modules.
it's the one we are referring to.
Okay. Yeah. If you're having problems with those, that's largely because that team is, I think, less doing maintenance on those. But those modules will probably give you the best experience.
But the fix we have done, it was always on the DSC module. It was not the Puppet wrapper, the issue. It was the DSC.
Yeah. I ran it.
DSC get for X group, for example, was returning. For members, it was returning, I think, only a member and not an array by default. And the MOF say it should be an array.
Yep.
Those kind of stuff. So we have made a few fixes already for those kind of small issues.
In my experience, the class-based resources are a lot more reliable, just because that API is stable in a way that interpreting the function parameter blocks from the MOF stuff is not. And there's a lot more latitude in those MOF-based resources to violate the MOF schema than there is in the class. So, yeah. And there's really nothing anybody calling those resources can do about that, which is, I assume, why you've had to submit fixes for them.
I agree, Gael. Migration to class.
Yes. The challenge is the tests mostly, but yes. The test and time, obviously. Yes. I was sharing just earlier, I just wanted to, because you asked a question, obviously, about the exports, and I wanted to give you a quick overview of, so basically you have a class-based DSC resource there, which is there in the Chocolatey module I authored. So you have the Chocolatey package. It's so obviously it's extending the base here. And this one, actually, that's the wrong example. Leave it. That's fine. But you have the DSC properties, and then you have the different, obviously the standard get is implemented in this case, but you also have a static one, which I don't know if it's actually implemented, Mikey, or is it was just part of the plan of the things that maybe we should be able to have a static method that would work. with the get?
Yeah, that was part of the discussion for implementing the resources in a V3 aware way. We can't, anything you do to the instance methods can break on parsing because those are checked by the parser for compliance with DSC V1, V2 API, whereas the static methods are not. And so the idea was being able to return results and have the same sort of control that non-adapted resources have for these operations, right? So being able to return either just the final state or the final state and differing properties for test and set and those kinds of things.
Yes.
This is stuff that hasn't been implemented, but it's based on design discussions.
Yes. Yes, so there was those discussions, and that's why what you see there is not the final state of play. It's just because I was discussing with Mikey, and I thought, okay, let's try everything at the same time, because you know what can go wrong. So, so the idea was just to implement this, and then I wanted to highlight the exports. So again, it's an easy one because for the Chocolatey packages, it's easy. You just go a Choco list, whatever is installed on your machine. And then you have the list of the things. In this case, it takes some time because for each one, I'd still do a get. So then I create a full instance of the Chocolatey package DSC resource. So then that's what we return. We just return an array of DSC resource. And I wanted to show you because I run this. Yeah. So you do DSC resource export, resource, Chocolatey package. And then you have the list of your resources. And there's obviously some things to improve. That's why I asked Mikey about his opinion. Like the underscore name, if this returns underscore name probably here, or I can add a property for the underscore name, it would populate this name with the actual name of the package that you can see here. And then that does the exports and all the things, and then I can still use DSC to do the same thing as we used to do, which is removing a package and stuff like that. So there's not that much differences. This is actually, I did some work on my previously class-based resource. I just adapted it for the things Mikey was showing me, you know, could be options in the future, which is a different signature. But it doesn't matter because the code is the same. And then what happens is it just calls different methods with like some pre-baked parameters if you need to. So basically the set, you only define it in the same way you used to do, maybe in a different method, but then you just call them as you see fit. I just wanted to give you a quick example. And if you want to give it a spin, that's just the Chocolatey package, which is in the gallery at the moment. So you can just, you go on as admin, you do install module Chocolatey, and then you can use DSC v3, and then you can at least give the Chocolatey package a spin. For the other ones, they're still written the old way, although that's the wrong one. Chocolatey software is an example. And this one is still using I would say, the old way of a class-based DSC resource. It only has the get, the test, and the set, but that also works. And then following today's discussions with Mikey and Steve, I will start doing the work to look at, you know, how we can have the DSC resource info and capabilities populated, maybe at build time. So then we have something that we can reuse in some of the places. And then we will have to wait for the adapter to support it. Wink, wink, Steve.
I don't think that work is going to be that hard. I might get that done before you get yours done.
Is that a challenge?
Not a challenge. I'll put it
I'm
this
on
way.
holiday next week.
There's a good chance it'll be part of the next release. How's that? The next preview release. So
I will make sure that I remind you, because in my opinion, that's very important. So if we can have this discovery and we can have the basic way, as we discussed today, that as long as you have the JSON, which is formatted properly and it can be discovered.
Yes,
I think that would be great. Then you can have the properties, and then you can have your build pipeline, you know, creating that JSON file for you, that JSON or YAML manifest for you.
Yep.
So I really hope that, to me, that's a little bit what's missing. So then we can have from a class-based resource, a first DSC v3, a good citizen that does all the things and exposes everything that he can do.
That's right.
Yes, you see, I've already started doing the changes to that DSC resource, so it should not be too long. So in a few weeks, I'm pretty sure we can have a good example to show. Do you have? So I have another side questions for you. Do you have, or do you know about sessions at Ignite that will be more or less related to the work you've been doing?
It's a good question. I know that Demetrius, I think, has some WinGet sessions. I can tell you that I myself don't have any sessions.
Yes, because you didn't submit in time, I'm sure. But
that is also true. But I'll put it differently. My focus right now is to see if I can get a build session.
Yes, I think it's more appropriate.
And by the way,
well,
that's harder. That's harder for me because I'm outside of Windows.
Yeah, true.
But I would love to have a build session on writing DSC v3 resources. But again, I'm not announcing anything because I'm working through other channels to try to get there. But it's hard.
It's a very good point because I know a conference that would love to have this kind of session, which is PowerShell Conference Europe. I'm sure it's the same with the US.
I'm not saying I'm planning, but I would like to go next year. All right, I'm trying to go every other year, but it also depends on what's happening in my personal life at that time. So
yeah, if you're not skiing, no, it's not the season anyway. June is fine.
There's no skiing in June, although I could go to the Southern Hemisphere and ski, but
yeah, New Zealand, that would be a good trip.
Yeah, New Zealand would be nice.
Yes. Okay, that would be cool. But no, I was saying that because both conferences, I believe, have the CFP open now. So we just opened the one for Europe
already,
and I'm pretty sure. Yes, exactly. That's why I remember. And we've opened the CFP for Europe at Minicon yesterday. And I'm pretty sure, yes, and I'm actually...
Can you drop a link in this chat and then I'll just...
Yes, I will do. But I will... I know how to... I know how that works.
Yeah,
I will send it to Sydney.
Directly.
I will send it to Sydney, and Sydney is great at that. Because then she can remind
She's much better at that stuff than I am, for sure.
Ah, yes, she's better than I am. That's also the problem sometimes. She tells me, you haven't responded to that person. Like, yes, you're right, Sydney. But yes, I will do drop. Anyway, if you want any information, the best is to follow https psconf.eu. Every time I have this kind of meeting, I have some people tell me, but you didn't mention psconf.eu. So today I remembered. But yeah, and the Summit, I'm pretty sure Summit, they've had the CFP open for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's still open. I'm not 100% sure though. But do check the PowerShell Summit North America, because I'm pretty sure they still have the CFP open. All right, sorry for this on the side. Is there, yeah, Mikey, you wanted to mention something?
I was just going to ask if you could show test and set for a Chocolatey package so people can see like what that output looks like now compared to the output that PSDSC used to give people.
Okay, so come on, DSC resource. Come on, I'll do it that way. So tell me how to do it. So if I do a get to start with, and then what is it again? Is it -I for the
input or -I? Yeah, either way.
Yes. Okay, and then we can, because we're within PowerShell, let's just do it that way. We can just create this, and then let's do name equal DLC, and then we can do ensure equal present, although it's good, it's already there. All right, and then we do. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit far. You can't see, but I have all my food in front of me that I couldn't eat for the last 2 hours. So I'm hard to reach. It's hard to reach with the keyboard. Is that correct? Let's give this a go.
I think you might need to do, well, no, compression shouldn't matter. It should be fine.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I should have done depth and compression, but compress. I think it's going to work. Yes, so don't mind all these error messages. I don't have the latest version anyway, so I'm not too sure why I have those warnings.
And then on the latest, you'll probably I have a PR to fix that, so at least you don't see duplicates. And I think I changed it to a debug message, but I don't know if that was merged for the latest preview.
Okay, so yes, it's probably because I'm an old version. I haven't updated in a bit.
Yeah.
So that's the result that you get. So you can see that I've still implemented reasons, and I'm told, and that's a good discussion for today as well. This is bad. This is not a best practice. Let's just go first before Mike gives his opinion, because I have heard it before. Let's hear maybe Steve's opinion about reasons.
No, we have a different mechanism for the same purpose. I don't remember actually. Mikey probably remembers because I don't.
Yes.
I'm not a resource author. I'm an engine developer. So, Mikey, why don't you tell them what we did? I forget what we did.
So the thing about reasons is that this was the only way to get this information in PSDSC without changing the API. But what it has functionally done is hoisted test logic behavior into get, right? Because here get is now telling you how something is or is not in the desired state. Whereas that's what tests should have been doing for people. But because you only got back a Boolean and then had to go, well, how is it wrong? Reasons was able to provide that information. So if you run test against that instance and you change present to be false when you run test, you'll be able to see that you get something very similar in terms of output. But one of the things that I don't think you've implemented yet is emitting a trace message for DSC to pick up and run with.
No, yeah.
Which is another thing that resources can do now. Previously, all of the messaging that you could do within a resource just got swallowed by PSDSC. DSC can bubble up messaging so that it goes up to the caller, which would be very convenient. So, for example, what you might do in test is have an info level message that says, this property is out of the desired state for whatever reason, right? Like a more human readable string. And then,
but I think for Gil, you did another get. So if you up your own change the get to test, you'll see different output.
Yep.
But I thought we had something like messages or something that bubbled up. It collected them all.
Yeah.
That's what I don't remember
I think
exactly.
isn't wired.
Oh, maybe that's the thing. I know we talked about it.
Yes. And so the slowness. Oh, go ahead, Gail. I was just going to say this.
Classical,
You first.
Yeah, sorry. So the logic I wanted to highlight, this is the logic you mentioned, which is definitely in the get method in there. And this is what you have to do. I was never too worried about this because at the end of the day, the test logic is pretty, in this case, at least the way it's built, it's pretty simple. So basically, if you have anything which is not compliant, well, you screwed up. But I'm not saying the new way is wrong or is not as good. I'm just saying that it's not that much of a big deal in my opinion. But this is true that all the test logic is within the get.
Yes.
And then I should have the result of this one, which is that's the test. Which this
Actually, interestingly, it looks like the adapter, I thought the adapter had been implemented to recall get and to merge that information, but it looks like maybe this is old enough that didn't land in this one. But what you should see is desired state, and then actual state should be everything. That's
really old.
Yeah.
I'm honest, so I'm showing it this year. But yeah. Yes, it's an old version.
So what actual state should show you is all of the property data for that instance. And then in this case, the only part that would be differing properties would be ensure. Right?
Yes.
So the idea behind this view would be that you can quickly, the result object itself says, this is what you told me you wanted. This is what the actual state is. Is this good or bad as just a Boolean yes or no, right? And then differing properties, which of these properties are incorrect? So that, like, if you think about like a complex object with like 10 or 15 properties, you don't want to look at A and then B and then A and then B to figure out which one is wrong. So we give you that list of property names so that you can just very quickly identify which pieces were wrong and how. And if you had trace messages, those would also be emitted at that time, right? While it's doing this, it would say, hey, you said that this package should be installed at least version 1.2.3. I only found it at 1.2.1. You should probably upgrade this or whatever, right?
It's worth to say, though, that the trace messages are also returned within the objects. Right?
Yes. So that is the plan. That's not what's currently wired. Yeah. What we want to do is hoist those messages. So you'll see them inline as it's happening, so you don't have to wait for the full execution to finish. You'll still see the traces there, but the final result object for a configuration should include the messages that were emitted by resources. That's not currently wired.
Yes. So the problem is not wired, but that's the plan. And I believe that's also why you've got these, I think it's part of this, the DSC Choco test results. So the DSC test results objects, it's like the structure that would put everything together, and then that would have those information. So maybe I implemented this. I didn't implement it really, but I just mocked it.
Yes.
And then you can find out.
So that would be the idea. You have the non-compliant properties, the compliant properties.
For other people to clean up after us. You're big enough to do that on your own now.
You have other things there.
Yeah, and our goal with the RDK is to make it so that you don't have to handcraft the right type of data to send out, right? Provide a lot of those helpers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Just because for PowerShell, we do have an open issue that I don't think has a PR yet. That will read the right verbose, right warning, all those messages and transform them. But in the interim, I put a link to how the adapter itself does it. You can just copy that code and so you can get traces today.
Yep.
Which is, sorry, let's do this. One
downside to doing that emission today is that will output to standard error for PSDSC, which may or may not be a thing that you care about. Whereas, so what the issue is having our host intercept the verbose stream, error stream, and so on, and then emit those as JSON trace messages up to DSC, so that you don't have to do anything special, right? You just write verbose or whatever, the same way that you always have, and the adapter sits between your resource and DSC, so it can take those messages and then do the right thing with them. I had some prototype working there, but I ended up with some weird inconsistencies, and I have higher priority stuff that I have to take care of before this next release, so that's on hold.
So would that mean that you would write your own host?
It's something that.
So Mikey,
no,
I know you
not
have a lot
us.
on your plate. Hold on. So if you want to tackle it again, Mikey, I think you just look at the PS script resource and how that's done. And that is supposed to be the right way to do it in terms of how we execute the run spaces and have an event watcher to intercept these traces so they can come out in order, right? In this case, we could have our own host as another way to alleviate this, but the problem that Mikey's bringing up is if you use this literal function and then someone who's not using DSCv3 calls your thing, you'll see the stuff out on standard error.
Okay.
The host here is still literally PWSH or PowerShell exe.
Yeah, okay. No, because we've asked you, Steve, for so many years to be able to write different PowerShell hosts, and you never wanted to. to do this.
You can still, I mean, technically the APIs are available if you wanted to do it.
You can
Yeah.
do it. We did it at Puppet. That's how when Puppet is calling DSC, it's calling it through a custom host. Because we
My
needed
point is,
to do the same thing.
Steve never wanted to do it or to open the door to
It's
this
no, it's
for
not
many,
that.
many years.
It is a priority question, right? Like, all right, if we do this, we can't do this other thing. And so how many people are writing hosts? Yes, some very important people, people on this call. But the universe of people writing hosts is very small.
Yes, it's true.
All right.
No, that's true. All right, that's great. Has anyone questions before we move on? And actually, we still have 15 minutes, but I will have to go. But I can leave the floor to you. Do you have any question about DSC v3, or do you have questions about other DSC topics that you would like to be covered during this call? Raymond, have you tried DSC v3 once at least in your life?
No.
Why? What do you do? So do you work with DSC? That's I think that's a good feedback to give to people. Do you work with DSC at all?
A lot of. Every day, and at the moment struggling with the remote desktop resource. So what we are doing is deployments for the German army. The German army needs to have mobile deployments and also deployments for the barracks. These need to be deployable in no time at all without any manual intervention. And so what we are currently trying to do as a POC is doing the whole infrastructure the army needs for a critical condition with DSC version 1 at the moment, because that's how things are working. But as we use the DSC workshop, the project that Gail and I have worked on for the last years, we have the config data in YAML anyway. So then moving to DSC version 3 should be that hard, but that's something for the future. We need to get things done that they can use the stuff and rely on it.
Yeah. So,
and unfortunately, this project doesn't leave me much time now at the moment for getting into version 3, but this is definitely on the roadmap, at least on my private one.
yes. So basically what the DSC workshop is like managing configuration data to be able to drive the LCM with the right data. So that's roughly what it does. So changing this to DSC v3. DSC v3 is at the far right end, I would say, from this project. But then we would just need the layer that transforms the data to maybe the YAML, and then pass the YAML to something that says, hey, maybe now's a good time to run your configuration. And then in the end, that higher order tool would execute DSC and say, hey, doing the role of the LCM, which is, hey, DSC, this is your input. Execute this in this context and do the thing. So maybe one day. But to me, there's a lot of, as we've seen, with the tracings and stuff like that, there's still a lot of things that needs to be there. So then we know how to have a higher order tool that actually communicates to the DSC platform. Or how do you call this actually, Steve? It's not a platform. Is it a platform? Platform's
It's a
too
platform.
big. It's a platform.
I mean, it's okay. You can call it. I don't know what you want to call it. I always refer to a platform. I don't call it a solution because if I look at it, and then WinGet sits on top of us. In the future, Machine Config and other partner teams that are working with will sit on top of us, right? Now, it is probably more than just a platform in the sense it's not just a set of APIs. So it's somewhere in between.
Okay. It's a bit
it's
like
a tool
it's
and a platform. How's that?
Okay, let's say it's a platform. It's a tool that wants to do too much. How does that sound?
Well, I've been constrained to do less. So
okay.
If you look at some of the issues in the repo, my original vision was much grander than where we are today. I'll put it that way.
And still, you still have a lot to do, and that's fine, which is good because that means you setting up boundaries, right?
Yes, correct.
So and you have other teams, and you mentioned the WinGet. You have other teams that actually use the DSC under the hood. So WinGet, in some ways, can use DSC. So when you do a WinGet Configure, so is that calling DSC under the hood?
WinGet Configure has two modes right now. So when WinGet team first started doing their configure work, it predated the readiness of DSC v3. So we had decided on a particular schema, which I think we call it 0.8 or something like this, which is the old schema, predates the move towards adopting ARM template syntax. So they have that, but then more recently, they also have the v3. So basically in a WinGet Configure doc, you specify if it's v3 or not. And if it is v3, they literally do spawn v3 and do the work, which is why some of the work that we've done in the DSC executable is emitting, tracing as JSON. I think we also have progress as JSON and other stuff. So basically, the XC is the API layer, right? So that if you're using another process to talk to it, there's no text parsing. Everything's structured that comes out, and then you can present it in a different way as much as you want.
Okay, and maybe if no one has any last question, maybe anyone has, so I will give you a few seconds.
You said, Steve, also machine configuration, Azure machine configuration is going to be based on version 3?
I would just say, again, Azure Machine Config is a peer team of mine. We both report up to the same manager, all right? So we have a close relationship. There is some work happening. There's nothing to announce at this time. I have no idea what dates look like for them. But a lot of the work that we do in our platform is intended for machine config. I'll put it that way.
Okay, that's good.
I can't announce on their behalf.
Okay.
So.
Because the machine config, as we have it at the moment, the old DSC part is awful. It's so hard to troubleshoot. It's almost impossible to catch how it's working and what it's doing in the background.
You're preaching to the choir here. So here's what I would say. All right, for anyone on this call, like if you guys use machine config or want to use machine config with DSC v3, it actually helps me for you to give them that feedback versus me telling them, because I'm obviously biased that I want them to use my platform, right? I'm not. So I know that they're very busy, so it's not like this is not something they're aware of, but maybe you guys can help shift some of their priorities by giving them that feedback.
So who do we need to talk to?
I think, all right.
Mutemwa?
Yeah, I think Mutemwa is probably the best bet in terms of the PM side to kind of give that feedback and help push that a little bit further along. Obviously, talking to Michael Green doesn't help because he's on the same side I am. I mean, it helps in the sense that we both already know, but you got to talk to Mutemwa directly.
Okay.
Yes.
Mikey?
Oh, I just wanted to say for folks who weren't aware, we actually have, as far as I know, the first not Microsoft developed DSC resource using the new model, non-adapted, which is actually OhMyPosh ships with DSC configuration built in. Talked to Jan about this a while ago, and it is all wired up.
And Jan is planning on demoing that at the next PS community call, which is tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
Tomorrow, perfect.
So tomorrow, what is it? Let me just check the time. Okay, so it's tomorrow, and it's 6:30 p.m. CET. Well, CEST, sorry.
It is also recorded if you guys aren't able to make that particular time.
True. But yes, the PowerShell community call.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So maybe we just go there and have a look. Thank you very much. It's 5 to the time, 10 here. Do you have any other question for the last 5 minutes? We can take one more. Otherwise, I can finally have my dinner.
Yes.
Somebody ask a question. Keep Gail from eating.
No, look at that.
That does look delicious.
I got everything ready. All right, on that case, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Steve and Mikey, for lots of information. Raymond, you can stop the recording, and we will send that to Daniel for posting it on YouTube. And see you next time in about 6 weeks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.